Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Discriminating Gamer, the Canadian board game review show that's not Canadian. My name is Cody. Today we're going to take a look at Wings for the Baron from Victory Point Games. In Wings for the Baron from Victory Point Games, 3 to 5 players are going to take on the roles of German aircraft manufacturers during the First World War. It's a very interesting topic. It's a very interesting theme. Now, this game can be played as either a campaign game or as a simple standard game. I have not played the campaign game, which is a little bit more complicated. I've only played a few games of the standard game, so that's what I'm going to be reviewing here. Each player gets a player board, which has a tech tree on it, as well as kind of a number track around the periphery, in which you're going to track all sorts of things, like the number of factories you have, the number of paper marks you have, and the number of gold you have. And those things, the paper marks and gold, are going to be very important. It can be kind of your points at the end of the game. You're also going to set up a track in the center of the board, which is going to track morale. It's going to track German morale as well as Allied morale, which is going to be very important. You're also going to track kind of the fighter efficiency of the various players in the game. Now, each player will get a set of their own 6 action cards, and these are the same action cards for everybody, and they're going to be very important in the game, of course. But you also have kind of a war status deck you're going to have to prepare, and then there's going to be a technology deck you're going to use. This is a simultaneous action selection game. At the bottom of your player board, you have a spot that says 2 and a spot that says 1. Now, the spot that says 2 means you can do that action twice, and the spot that says 1 means you can do that action only once. Now, if you choose to put a card under the 1 spot that says focused action, you can essentially do the other card 3 times instead of 2. Now, once all the players have selected the actions they want, they simultaneously reveal all of their actions. So everybody can see what actions they've chosen for the game. Then you go through and you resolve the actions in order. Now, you resolve the actions in numerical order. So the very first action is a build action. Build allows you to build more factories. And you need factories because you can only take contracts up to the number of factories you have. You need to get the contracts in order to make the money. So the more factories you have, potentially the more money you're going to make. But a build action, of course, takes up spots for other actions. So it's kind of a trade-off. But at some point, you're going to have to build up your factories. Next, there is an espionage. And espionage essentially allows you to, with a die roll, attempt to steal technology from another player. If more than one player has that technology, it becomes easier to steal. You get kind of a die roll modifier that makes it much easier to steal. 3 is design. Now, design is important because that's how you're going to build up your fighter efficiency in the game. And what you do is, if you play the design card, you can then play cards from your technology and event deck. That's going to allow you to gain things you're going to need, as I say, to improve the fighter efficiency. Different kinds of wings or better engines. As you improve the efficiency, it's going to make your plane more attractive and more effective against the enemy. The government's going to want to award you more contracts. The 4th action is research, and research is going to allow you to draw more cards from the research and technology deck that you can then play later in design. Now, 5th, and very importantly, is banking. Banking essentially allows you to take your paper marks and convert them into gold. And that's going to be very, very important because whatever paper marks you have may not last. Gold will always last. But again, it's a trade-off because these actions, you've only got so many of them, and it's going to take time in order to bank everything you've got. Next, after everybody's resolved their actions, you're going to award contracts. Now, contracts are awarded by, first of all, to whomever has the most efficient kinds of fighters. They're going to roll a die. They're going to look at a track beneath them, or rather where the contracts are available at. And then depending on what they roll, it's going to say how many contracts they get. And, of course, they're kind of capped by how many factories they have. But if they get those contracts, that means they're going to make that much money, and you're happy. Then the next highest person can go, and the next highest person, so that you're always trying to get better, more efficient fighters so that potentially you can be first to get those contracts. Now, here's why those paper marks are pretty tricky, because every round you have the possibility for inflation. You roll some die, and depending on what the die roll is, you may have no inflation, you may move the inflation marker over on the track. Now, if you move the inflation marker over on the track, essentially you're going to have to get rid of about half your marks, but it's going to tell you on its position on the track, do you round up or do you round down? That can be very scary, especially if you don't have many marks and you've got to round down. It can be devastating. So that's one of the reasons why you're going to want to bank, because once you bank and turn it into gold, you don't have to worry about inflation. Gold is gold, right? Finally, you have the war status phase. Now, the war status deck, which you prepare at the beginning of the game, essentially has the years 1916, 1917, and 1918. You kind of shuffle it, so it's going to be more or less chronological. There may be some little out-of-sequence things that happen. But depending on how the war is going in general, it's going to affect how each player is going to function in the next round or so. Critically, one of the things that may affect is morale. It may tell you to move German morale down so many points, or Allied morale down so many points, or something along that. Morale tends to go down as the war drags on. Also, the war status card is also going to probably tell you how many contracts are going to be awarded next round, so potentially how many are up for grabs. And also, too, it will tell you how effective are the Allied fighters. And it's going to move the effectiveness of the Allied fighters up. And if your German company is producing a fighter that is not even close to being, having some kind of parity with the Allied fighters, German government's not going to buy your airplanes. So you're not going to get contracts even if you could afford them. If ever the German or the Allied marker reaches 0 on the morale track, game is over immediately. If, on the other hand, the inflation marker reaches all the way to the end of its track, game is over immediately. Now, again, your money is essentially your points. If the Allies lose the war, if their track hits 0 before the German track does, the Germans win the war, and the German mark remains stable. If German and Allied morale hit 0 at the same time, it's kind of a negotiated piece, and there's only about a 25% inflation. If the German morale marker hits 0, then Germany loses the war very badly. There's a 50% inflation that triggers. Now, if the game ends with the inflation track hitting the last space, hyperinflation triggers, all your paper money immediately goes to 0. It's worthless. Whoever has, at the end of the game, the most money, both in terms of gold and any paper marks combined, wins Wings for the Baron. So there's a lot more to this game. That was just a very brief, bare overview of the game. So, I have to tell you, I was very attracted to this game primarily because of the theme. I thought that theme sounded so cool. I really enjoy games that take place, rich historical thematic games that take place during a war that are not necessarily war games. I really think that's interesting, and when people can do that and do it well, it's unique and it's different, and it's something I really enjoy. I think I'm not poo-pooing war games by any means, and I enjoy using the term poo-pooing. But, I enjoy war games, I really do. But I like games that take place in war that aren't war games. The Grizzled from Cool Mini or Not comes to mind. Origins of World War II, the old Avalon Hill game, comes to mind. And this one is kind of in that vein. It's a game that is set in war, where the war is very important to it, but it's not a war game. This is kind of a game where, it feels kind of somewhat Euro-y, but it's a game where you're trying to develop the best kind of fighters you can in order to win the most contracts, in order to make the most money. But there's all these different monkey wrenches coming at you, and you do this through this kind of simultaneous action player action selection. It's very, very smart. It's a very well-oiled, well-done mechanic in this game. I was thoroughly pleased with this game. I was scared. I was kind of reading the rules, and it looked like it might just be a hair too complicated. The more I read it, I was thinking, well, maybe it's not. I was kind of going back and forth. Is it going to be so complicated I don't like it? And ultimately, it's not. It's actually a fairly simple game. There's a lot going on, as I say, but it's not a hard game to learn. It's not a hard game to play at all, I didn't think. And I really just enjoyed it. It was a good competition. You can play dirty tricks on people. There's some of the event cards let you totally screw people over. I was playing a game, and Mac, Kevin's son, was playing with us, and he actually played a card on me that my factories burned down. So I lost a couple of factories. And and he did it because I had the most efficient fighters. And I was, really cleaning up, and he burned down some of my factories, the swine. But there's all sorts of stuff like that you can do. You can sabotage planes and stuff. And the technology, and you build a plane, and you build the tech tree, there's always something really cool and fun and interesting about tech trees in games, video games or board games. I really like games with tech trees, and this does it very, very well. This is a fantastic game. I really, really liked it. I was super impressed with Wings for the Baron. I like it a whole lot. Victory Point games, when they're on, they're on. And this game, it's on. I freaking love Wings for the Baron. I think it is a fantastic game that needs more press, needs more love. So the recommendation for the discriminating gamer for Wings for the Baron is buy it. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube. We are The Discriminating Gamer. And 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 or more. That Bloody Red Baron was rolling out the score. 80 men died trying to end that spree of the Bloody Red Baron of Germany. Thanks, Snoopy.
Please somebody help me on my feet again. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody